What's going on, guys? I'm on my way to pick up another jet ski, okay? This is a special one. This is a 1995 550SX. I'm gonna load it up in the back. What we got here is a 94 550SX. Got the Reed motor and everything. And there's some surprises under the hood. All right, guys, we got the jet ski home, and here she is. This thing's been freshly repainted. The motor's been freshly rebuilt, supposedly. And it's got, best part, it's got the factory B-pipe. We got some wicked chunkage out of the front, but it's got a fuel-filled Elite here. Done pretty well. This whole paint job seems to be super nice. We got some fiberglass reinforcement up front. For some reason, it's got a black stator cover instead of the silver one, but I've got an extra one I can throw on there. I'm going to redo all the lines and stuff because I don't like how this looks. I'm going to match all the colors, and a few lines are going to need to get replaced. These are crusty. One of the major things I noticed is this wire here going into the E-box seems to be in there a little bit janky. And I don't really like that because that's a good spot for water to go in. As well as this ground here is, I like to do it to the intake manifold. And then it's also got the old fuel water separator that is currently hooked up to nothing because he's got it ran straight into the carb. So I'm going to go through all these fuel lines, show you guys how to do it, take out all the unnecessary ones. First thing I'm going to do is throw a battery in it, put some oil down the cylinders, and then we'll see if she cranks over and if she has good compression. Well, the plug's got to come out. Just going to get a cap of oil down in there. Got myself a battery. Just going to get her thrown in. Going to hook up my battery terminals. Milwaukee Fastback always comes in handy when I'm too lazy to grab a screwdriver. Now I've got our battery hooked up. I'm going to see if she turns over. Okay, here we go. She turns over. Sounds pretty good too. I'm going to run a compression test real quick, then test for spark. Got my gauge all hooked up. Let's see. 180. That's good to see. Here's cylinder number 2. Looks like we're reading about 180 as well. Got the spark plugs hooked up. I'm just gonna look and see. Yep, we have spark. Got some special juice here. Got our spark plugs back on. Well, she fired up. These lines are really old and crusty, so I'm just gonna cut them off and then cut these off and get some new ones on there. Pull our lines off the carb. Gonna just cut these off here. They're usually pretty stuck. So it looks like a line from our head to our pipe. Line coming out of the pipe, down back to the pipe. Pump to the manifold, yep, right there. And then these both lead out to the pissers. As I was digging out the water lines, I found out that this coupler is not fully seated on this head pipe. So the guy said that he could never get it to run under load at all. Right when it went in the water, and it would idle fine, but then it would just die. This here would have been definitely a problem. I'm gonna work on getting this fella off here. I don't really know why they were doing that. They must have had a hose that fit. Use some vice grips. Got this fella out of here. Before I start digging too deep into fuel lines, I'm gonna pull this carburetor off, rebuild it, and see if it still works. On a discovery. We got R&R Jet Tech ported, hopefully, cylinder. I'm going to work on pulling off the carb. Now all it needs to come off is the throttle cable. You just push down, get it right there. It should pop out. This carb looks pretty nice. I like to look for is to see if someone rebuilt it and they put something together wrong. Because it happens a lot more often than you think, especially with the tiny little carb parts. I also found another potential problem. I pulled the spark plug boot off, and this boot just came right off the wire. So I trimmed it back a little bit. I'm going to stick that boot back on and zip tie it down so it doesn't happen again. Threw 2 new zip ties on here, cut them nice and flush. Got the carb here up on the bench. Now I'm gonna pull off diaphragm side first, see if we have anything out of the ordinary. Now I'm undoing the fuel pump here, just 4 bolts. These don't usually go bad, but it's always good to just shoot some brake clean through them. This thing looks like it's got pretty gross fuel. Got everything cleaned out with brake cleaner. Now I'm just gonna throw back in all the gaskets that need to go back in. I might replace this one, but it seems like it should be okay. Now I'm just gonna put everything back together the way it came off. So that guy goes on here, and then our little flap. The gasket goes down first, then the flap, and then our little metal plate. Drop in our mid plate. I already cleaned up the filter there. Then our jets can go back in. These don't have to be crazy tight. They just have to be in there snug. Got the car back together and cleaned up. I'm gonna throw it back on the ski, get some fresh fuel, and we'll see if she fired. Forgot about this part. We're gonna wanna go about 1 and a little more on our low. So there's 1.5, there's 1, and then we're gonna go to like there. I think I like it a little more. And then our high, we're gonna go to about 1 as well. There's a half, there's 1, and we're gonna go a little more than that. But I found that works pretty good on my 650. We can always mess with it from there. And then the idle, this thing is cranked way up. I usually just like to set this to as low as I can get it. Got the car bolted back on. Now I'm gonna hook up my pulse line right here to that little nipple there. So for the reserve, that's the line I'm gonna run because it goes all the way to the bottom. So I'm gonna put this nipple here to the nipple here on my carb, and then this here's the return, and I'll put that in one of these open holes. So then I'm just gonna go route this one kind of around and back to here so it clears the pipe in the hood. All right, I've got my line ran here. I like it when my lines look good, and this looks pretty nice to me. Next up, we've got our tank vent here. This just goes on to this one right here. This uses 5/16 fuel line, just in case anyone was wondering. You're gonna wanna listen to the arrow and point that towards the gas tank. And then the last thing, I'm gonna find a cap that'll fit on there. These caps, I found out you can buy from the hardware store. They're just called thread protectors in the store, but I haven't had any problems using them on fuel-related stuff. So I just pop it on there. It's not really necessary, but I could throw a zip tie on there if I wanted to be really safe. But now we've got our fuel line routed. I'm not going to worry about water lines, but I am going to replace this terminal. Got here this other terminal. It's a little shorter, but it's actually the right length that's supposed to go here. It's a little dirty, and it's probably not the best, but I'm sick of trying to finagle this on there. Got to peel back this rubber piece here, and then it's just a 10mm. You should be able to get that old terminal off. Just like that, our old terminal is out, and it can get replaced with our new one. I just noticed one thing pretty major. The e-box did not have a ground wire to the motor. This here is something janky for the bilge pump. So I'm just going to run a temporary ground. I know I have one of the right ones somewhere around here, but I'm just going to run a wire from here to temporary ground going from my e-box to my intake manifold bolt. And I think the next thing I need to do is put the battery in it, throw some fuel in here. We'll see if we can get her to fire. Big battery in. I've got the seal up here, and then I've got a gallon of premix. I'm gonna give this thing a few cranks, and we'll see if she'll start up. She's running, but she's running real weird. Based on that clip you guys saw, this thing was belching a lot of smoke, which he says it was just rebuilt, and I did put a bunch of oil down the cylinders. But I think we've got a problem with a water box because this is popped here. Some water was coming out of the water box, so I think that might be a crack. Out comes the fuel tank, and now we should just be able to pull our tank straight up and out. Next thing to do is undo these two straps. Took the pipe out just because I wanted to, and I found out we got an SBT starter, which is not a good sign. All right, I blew into the tank while I was plugging both ends, and that right there's a crack leaking out. I'll do it again so you guys can hear. Just for something fun, I'm gonna see and start it up and see how loud it is with no pipe on. See if this thing is loud. Oh yeah, it's loud. Holy crap. Since both of these are cracked anyway, I think I'm just going to run this one for now and see if I can get it running at least decently. And then I'll start looking for a West Coast or a Mariner aluminum one. All right, I've got my pipe back on there. I've got it on here. Got it on down in my water box. Now I'm going to try firing it up again. As you guys just saw, it started dieseling a little bit. Kind of freaked me out, but got it under control. It's a good thing I have my carb wide open so I can take care of that. Well, guys, I blew out the water box. So I'm going to have to call that the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Getting this old thing running. In the next one, I'm going to be tearing this whole motor apart. Should be a fun teardown. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next one.